Hello and welcome to another Tech Home Builder Online Summit Lux Track session. Our topic today is Lux Tech Idea Bank, Wellness and Quality of Life Apps. Very intriguing, and we'll get into what exactly that means as we go forward. I would like to just kick us off with a little discussion of the purpose of the session and introduce our panelists and give you a little insight into the flow. So our purpose is to really increase builder understanding of the general appeal of a new set of luxury technologies, and the specifics of that will come out as we dive deeper. We, of course, want to be practical here as well. So our idea is to give luxury builders some advice on how to get started and succeed with this newer category of products. And we're lucky to be joined by two extremely high quality industry experts in covering this material. First up will be Sean Weiner, who is the Chief Technology Officer of Bravas Group. Bravas Group is a nationwide integration company that is serving the luxury custom market and came together a couple years ago, and Sean plays a key role in that group, and we're excited to have his expertise on this session. And then Jay Jenkins, who is the president of Jenkins Baer Associates, which is a luxury interior design firm. They're both in the Baltimore, Maryland area with their home bases. And our flow for the session today will be some show and tell, largely. We'll take a look at some applications, the features and user benefits, the user experience associated with these technology applications. And then we'll also be talking along the way about the benefits for the builder to be offering applications like this. I classify that as soft and hard. Soft would be the brand and reputational benefits for offering these feature sets and how that brings maybe more clientele or a better breed of clientele to builders. And the hard benefits would be the financial positives of playing in these spaces. And then we always want to wind up with some takeaways and to-dos for you. That's our flow. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Sean to take the ball and start us walking through these feature sets. Take it away, Sean.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you having us today. I asked Jay to participate with me today because we go way back. We go back a long ways. Jay and I have been working together for probably close to 30 years now. Maybe I'm a little embarrassed to admit that. But Jay is one of those folks who works almost exclusively in the luxury marketplace and has always had a very solid understanding of what a luxury buyer is looking for. And this is a Lux session, so we're here to discuss not just the luxury buyer's technology interest, but what a luxury buyer is actually looking for in their home and how we can integrate technology with that process to make the product more appealing to a luxury buyer. So with that, there's a statistic now that's actually probably changed a bit since COVID, but we were spending 90% of our time indoors as of February of this year. So the design of our interior spaces is critical to our ability to live comfortably in those homes, to move through those spaces, and basically to suit our needs while we're in the home with our families and our friends. Stresses from outside the home, we really would prefer that they not penetrate or interject on our day-to-day lives in the house, which is why the design of the home is so critical to the success of the project and to the happiness of the client. Luxury living is an interesting concept because it doesn't just involve the technology. It doesn't just involve the construction of the house. It also includes the ability to be well in your home. So we'll talk a little bit about today about wellness, about health benefits, about de-stressing and decluttering, and really just having a sense of peace and calm while you're inside of your home and making it the mecca that you want it to be. There are 5 pillars that Bravas has outlined to make a luxury home a well home. You can see them on the PowerPoint slides, but I won't read them all to you. But essentially, natural light and natural living, so bringing the outdoors and the outdoor spaces back into the home. Sound and silence is a concept we'll talk about a little bit today, which is really a concept of bringing, calming sounds into the home, but also maintaining some acoustic treatments and some acoustic noise reduction inside the home to make the space more quiet and more calming. Peace of mind applies to all those things, as well as to the safety and security and ability for you to interact with your home. Having a healthy climate and hiding clutter are two other things we'll discuss today as well.
Hey, Sean, hiding clutter is the surprise category for me.
Is it?
I haven't seen that, and I haven't heard it spoken out of a tech integrator's mouth before. Just give me a little bit more about that. I'm sure you're going to dive into it, but that's the surpriser.
We will, but when we think about the home and the way that you live and move through a space, a cluttered environment is never appealing to anyone, right? So we can use technology.
Could not agree.
I'm sorry, Jay?
I said I could not agree more.
Yeah. And I think Jay can speak to that probably better than I can. But Jay, it's a good opportunity for you to interject. Explain some of the things we've done in the past to try and reduce that clutter.
It's interesting. I think that there was a period of time, I think when home technologies first started out, that seeing some of the product was really very, very attractive. And I think as time has moved on and equipment has gotten smaller and smaller, I think that people are more focused on a streamlined, quiet environment visually. So, seeing a whole lot of componentry and TVs for that matter, switches and buttons, it just sort of, I think it's much more appealing in the luxury market to have those things as subtle as possible, so that they're functional and they're easily used and you adapt to them, but they're not a feature or focal point in what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And the industrial design of products has changed, because we're all old enough to remember when television consoles and AV equipment was like furniture, right? That's how it was designed. It's not designed to be featured visually anymore like it was 30 years ago. So sorry to interject, but keep rolling, Sean.
Thanks. We're going to touch on a series of categories, but this was really inspired by looking into lists on the internet of things that people look for in a luxury home. What are the most important things people are trying to find when they're looking for a luxury product or luxury space? So relaxing and entertainment and bringing the outside in and bringing the inside out, being able to exercise and feel healthy in your home. These are all things that we're going to touch on today. So I'd like to start with just building spaces to relax. And I think this is something that Jay excels at, frankly. Furnishings are such a huge part of what we did. When we built a showroom in our office, probably 10 years ago now, and Jay helped with the design. Actually, that didn't help. He provided all the design work for that space. We outlined the technology we wanted to include, and Jay built the space around it. And I was blown away at the furnishings that were included, but not just what they looked like, but what they did to the space. It totally transformed that space into something that was usable and comfortable. And we had an incredible client response from that space once it was completed. And I attribute some of that to the tech and most of it to Jay's abilities. Jay?
And speaking to that, Sean, it goes back to what I said. We were on a fine dividing line between wanting to highlight your product and the services that you provide, but at the same time, we were trying to create an environment that was very much like a home. So I did everything I could to sort of hide the materials as well as making them in the forefront. We were lucky enough to work with TVs that had a rolling screen of art in front of it. We were able to build custom cabinetry that hid the speakers, but at the same time they became integral to the design of the piece of furniture. Obviously, electrically operated, manual, motorized draperies and what have you. All of those things we were able to incorporate that really fit what the image is.
Yeah, and so what it allowed us to do is sort of demonstrate to a homeowner what it's going to look like in their home. What does it feel like when you sit down in your space? How do you make my space comfortable using technology? And I think a lot of these things go unnoticed when they're done well. So it's important to point them out today. Controlling the temperature and the humidity in the space is really important to comfort. And I think everyone knows that. But how do you do that effectively? When you've got a large house with multiple zones of heating and cooling, does it make sense to run from room to room and adjust the thermostats in every zone in the house? It probably does not. So an integrated climate control system is important. We can talk about air quality today, probably more important than ever before. having some filtration systems to keep the air clean in the space. And it's not just for health, it eliminates odors and eliminates dust particles and things that cause allergies and whatnot in the house. And that can all be not just controlled, but monitored by an automation or control system. Lighting and window treatments is critical to that experience as well, the proper lighting. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, and I'll definitely let Jay expound on that because he's a resident expert on lighting. But even the acoustics and the sound quality issues we talked about before, having a quiet space to relax can be just as important as having a home theater system that performs at the highest possible level. So spaces to entertain, that quiet and relaxing space also needs to be an entertaining space. And we've all seen homes with dedicated theaters and media rooms. And Jay pointed out to me when we were preparing for this presentation that I should combine media rooms and home theaters and game rooms into one category. Because Jay, you're seeing more of that, right?
Yeah, we're absolutely moving in a direction where it's relative to the open floor plan kind of idea. It has sort of migrated into these entertainment spaces. So there's no longer necessarily a theater where you go sit in a darkened room and then you go someplace else, perhaps to play pool or to play cards or what have you. And also, the concept of family living has become much more important, so that whole families can be in the experience, so that you can have some people watching a big movie, you can have other people in the back of the room sort of chit-chatting or what have you. And it's a bigger function these days. It's just a much bigger function than what it was before.
It's multi-playing, not multitasking, but there's a lot of different activities going on simultaneously. And media consumption has really become kind of fragmented, right? There's a lot of people on their second screen, even when you're watching a history television show of some sort. You go into Wikipedia and trying to figure out who this guy really is, or looking up band members when you're watching a concert. So it kind of speaks to media consumption trends as well.
Right.
And I think there's an interesting point in these photographs too, that on the right-hand side of this slide, there's two images of a project we worked on with Jay's firm a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And you can see it's a very formal living room, beautifully decorated, very comfortable living space. It's also the theater. So that screen retracts back to the ceiling. So this becomes a multi-purpose room. You can't really see it very well, but that table on the left-hand side doubles as a card table and a dining table. So it's a multi-purpose space in a formal living room, so it can be beautiful and functional at the same time.
Yeah. And Sean, the thing we can't see in the pics is the AV performance. So I think sometimes we see multi-purpose use rooms like this, and we just assume the performance of the AV components is going to be a step down from a dedicated home theater. That's not necessarily the case with the technology and skills we have available today. You can still provide awesome critical listening and critical viewing experiences even without a cinema per se, right?
Could not have said that better myself. Yeah, there's products and services designed to do exactly what you're describing. So the manufacturers of these products have evolved to the point where they understand, and everyone wants to see a giant floor standing speaker in the front of their media room.
Yeah, right. And I think to get builders to think and to transmit the idea of high performance AV zones, not necessarily rooms, but zones. Am I able to deliver a zone? And to not think that that's only for movie viewing, that even just playing something, streaming a quick concert clip or something, we still want high performance, high quality audio and video experiences with that usage. So
we have clients today also that are, they're very caught on the idea of a flex space, so that it's really important that these rooms are multifunctional for a variety of events and a variety of people that are there, whether it's the adults and they're entertaining or the kids and they're entertaining. It's there's a lot that goes into it to complement the technology.
Yeah, I curiosity question for you guys. I know we got a lot to cover, but what percentage of your luxury clientele really have the entertaining piece high, not just their own personal consumption, but for family and friends entertaining and wanting the tech to be part of that? Is that 90%, 60%, 30%?
I'd probably say 70, 75%. There's a certain percentage that just wants it to be really comfortable for themselves and not necessarily for, the bigger picture of entertaining.
Gotcha.
What I think is really interesting about that question, John, is that these spaces are designed for flexibility. So when Jay designs a space, the furniture may not always stay in the same spot.
Right.
I've seen rooms that we've worked on before where things can be rearranged slightly and turn to a different space or look to a different room for different purposes. So you have the ability to entertain 2 or 3 people at a time or a whole house full. And the
Right.
technology is the same way. It can be hidden to a point where it can be brought out when it's needed, but hidden when it's not. This is a big one. I don't think this can be understated at this point. Outdoor spaces are enormous. They're a huge part of what we do now in terms of time spent with family, time spent entertaining. If we all need to be 6 feet apart, we understand that outdoor spaces are even more valuable than they were before. So bringing that tech outside, and there are things we don't think about too. So outdoor Wi-Fi is a gigantic opportunity for integrators. It's a gigantic opportunity for home builders. It's a really important feature for luxury home buyers. They want that Wi-Fi experience they have inside to carry through to the house on the exterior. And if it doesn't, the systems don't work. They can't use their devices like they're used to. So that's important to extend outside. But so is the outdoor theater and the outdoor screening room. So everything from simple outdoor TVs to outdoor projection systems, whether they be in a completely exposed outdoor space like the ones in these images, or in an enclosed space like a screen porch or a loggia or an outdoor kitchen or an outdoor family room. And outdoor audio, as you all know, has come a long way as well. So being able to extend that to cover much larger areas than a traditional pair of wall-mounted speakers. So landscape architects get involved in this process, and landscape lighting becomes more integrated with the rest of the systems. So we control the outdoor environment in much the same way as we control the indoor environment, just maybe on a larger scale.
It's so incredibly true. We're in the middle, we're at the end of the summer here in the East, and because of where we are in our lives with COVID and everything else, you have to be outdoors. You have to be outdoors if you want to have any kind of interaction. And I have found it to be incredibly beneficial that on my property, I have a pavilion that has great lighting and great sound that Sean did. And, we're able to, get together with people. And I think that this is if it's not meaningful today, it's certainly going to be meaningful moving forward. But I couldn't agree more. I think it's just the most important hot topic there is today.
So this is another important feature that we're seeing, and we've seen it for a long time, but I think it's more important now than ever. So space for exercise and wellness. So the spa-like tub with the soft lighting and the quiet space and background music and motorized shade, an indoor swim spa for swimming laps, a relatively small indoor home fitness center there on the lower left-hand corner of these images. But just the ability to exercise, gyms have been closed for a while. If you want to work out, you're doing it at home. Having that separate space so the treadmill's not next to the bed in the master bedroom is important to a lot of luxury buyers. And there's more than one room in a lot of cases. So we just finished a project with a fitness room as well as a separate yoga room and an outdoor fitness space. So all 3 of those spaces are contiguous and allow the owners to use it the way that they see fit, because it's a larger family and they all exercise in different ways.
We have a project now where it's the gym, the spa, the massage rooms. It's been created so that it's a destination. It's in the house, but it's a destination, especially on those days where, clients say to me all the time, I need a motivation. I may not feel like going downstairs to get on the elliptical or what have you, but if you can provide a place that is dynamic and exciting and beautiful to be in and what have you, it draws them in. And for their family and for their guests and what have you, making it a really beautiful, interesting destination has become very, very important.
And keeping it connected. So when we talk about technology through this session, but the treadmills that have the integrated screens and the integrated heart rate monitors and the connection to the internet and the trainers that are online, the Peloton bikes, All these things require connectivity, they require integration, the right lighting, the right temperature in that room. If it's too hot in the gym, you're not going to get the best workout. Unless you're doing hot yoga and you need to be hotter in the room. So having control over all those spaces is where the technology plays its part. So I use the term hotel inspired in this portion of it. So the owner suite, hotels spend a lot of money and do a lot of research on the luxury clientele. They understand that the motorized draperies and the motorized shades and the lighting controls are important. And I'm surprised how many buyers we have, how many clients we have that tell me that they went to a hotel and saw motorized shading for the first time, or had a lighting control system for the first time and how great it was. So we as integrators and probably luxury builders are not doing a good enough job educating our customers as to what those technologies can afford. Because these finishes and these conveniences are important to that luxury buyer. So Jay and I can't remember the first time we did a shade together, but it's been years. I mean, probably 20 years ago, selling motorized shades and draperies. And Jay, you can speak to that and why that's so important.
You know, it's so really important in that convenience. You know, clients in the luxury market, you know, and especially in an older clientele, they're not looking to go over there and drag the cord on the draperies themselves. It's a convenience, it's a luxury, but it's seamless. It's just entirely seamless. From the design aspect, it's interesting. I think that technology has come so far in that shading and motorized draperies and what have you can be so easily integrated into the luxury home situation. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to work with a consultant to figure out the spaces that are needed, especially in the pre-planning stages where you can recess things into the ceiling or you can accommodate things through crown molding to make them just really beautiful and not look like they are additive in some way. But also, I don't think that there's a house that we're doing these days in that market that doesn't employ all of these things in one way or another.
And think about all the benefits for the homeowner. The convenience is probably at the top of the list, but protecting furniture and finishes inside the space by controlling the light that's coming from the outside.
And also, Sean, I forgot to mention, generally speaking, our clientele are travelers. This is not their only home. It could be one of a series of homes, and they can take care of and remote these things from wherever they are, and sort of address the needs remotely, which makes a huge difference too. First off, from an interior designer's point of view, if you can't see it, what's the point in doing it? And so there's a direct correlation with lighting and good lighting and lighting that can be controlled, that is paramount to the work that we do. Good lighting. It's a must for the luxury home builder segment because it shows what you do. It shows what you do and how you live through the spaces.
So, and that ties right into what we're talking about with the home offices, Jay, because the lighting and the comfort and the surroundings that you're sitting in, being able to control the space that you're in is important to having a workspace that's effective while you're home, right?
Correct. And flexibility.
Yep.
Because some of these rooms once again, are multifunctional. So having the ability to bring the light levels down to something that's comfortable for one thing and being able to pump them up for another thing is also just really, really important. And that flexibility is key.
And then we started the lighting design conversation probably a few times already today, but I think it's important to bring up one important topic that we haven't covered yet, which is you can call it RGBW lighting, you can call it circadian rhythm lighting, you can call it human-centric lighting, you can call it biophilic lighting. There's all sorts of terms to describe it, but essentially new LED lighting technology, or I should say newer because it's not brand new, allows us to control the color of the light coming from the ceiling. And those light fixtures can match the color of the sun at any point in time or any moment in time. So we can bring the light color from outside into a space and make those big windows even bigger by lighting up that space that we're sitting in and entertaining. We can also do the inverse, and we can lower the shades and dim the lights to create a more relaxing environment. And I'm sure that there'll be presentations on wellness and the health benefits of that. But it adds a whole new layer of complexity to lighting, which means it's important to have an integrator involved, but it also adds a whole new layer of capabilities for the interior design community Yeah.
And Sean, how would a build, so we got this new technology palette for lighting, right? Incredible. Lots of things you can do. How does a builder know if they're working with a trade partner who knows what they're doing with that palette? You know, what are some of the indicators, 2 or 3 indicators that say this is somebody that not only has the technology, but knows how to leverage it for appropriate user experience?
Well, the easiest way, John, is probably look at a resume and then go and see a demonstration of the technology in action. If you can demonstrate it and you can explain it, then you can likely integrate it.
Yeah.
But there's a tremendous amount of knowledge that goes into it. And to be honest, having a partner like Jay in something like this is about as much as I could ask for, because I have someone who has the lighting expertise to know what it should look like. And I'm the one that has to make it look like that. So that relationship is optimal for something like this.
You know, and we spent a fortune in our libraries and our office to have multiple sources of light, because when we were scheming for a client, we wanted to make sure that we covered every base. And now that everything's gone fairly much to LED, we have all new systems to do our work in that. But there's an enormous benefit to being able to keep the color of the fabrics, keep the color of the carpeting sort of the same through the entire rhythm of the day. So that, you know, the setting of the sun doesn't necessarily change the palette of the room. It's important to say also that lighting is multifaceted. You know, there's certainly lighting that comes from above, and we know that, but between sconces and chandeliers and table lamps, and being able to integrate all of these lighting levels, all of these lighting pieces into one contiguous whole is really beneficial, especially at this level that we're talking about.
And we touched on some motorized window treatments, but I think this is a good example of how they can be used to transform a space. So in these photographs, you can see a sunroom with a view of the woods behind the property. That television actually raises up out of the floor. The shades lower to conceal the windows and darken the room. This is a space that Jay's firm and we worked on probably about 2 years ago. And it ended up being an incredible space. The photos probably don't even do justice. And the last thing I should probably mention is when you're integrating shades with the RGBW lighting, now you can open the shades and match that color all at the same time. So it's now an integrated system between lighting and shading instead of one or the other. We used to talk about lighting control. Now I think we have to refer to it as light control, because we're controlling the natural and the artificial lighting in the space.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned earlier, John, about reducing clutter. Here's a few examples of some things that allow us to do that. And these are more elegant finishes. So I think that the important thing to touch on here, and Jay's been great with this, you can buy a plastic wall plate for your light switch, or you can buy a glass wall plate for your light switch, or you can reduce the number of light switches and integrate it like you see in one of those photographs and make it flush with the surface that it's installed in. In summary, what I wanted to discuss is just the automation and control system that ties all these things together. There are many systems we talked about: lighting and shading and temperature and sound and safety and security, even energy management. And all of those things in and of themselves can be fantastic systems, but the purpose of the integrator and what the luxury buyer is looking for is someone to bring that all together. So in a partnership like Jay and I we sit down and review the requirements of that customer, and then design a system and a scope around what they're looking to do. And then we find a solution to integrate it in the technology and in the app and in the function. And Jay finds the way to integrate that into their surroundings, their furnishings, their finishes, so that they end up with a product that doesn't look out of place, either in terms of how they operate it or in terms of how it's installed in the home. So having an interior designer, and I think Jay and I talked about this earlier for this meeting, that proper documentation and knowing how to work with a client and an architect on a project, and a builder on a project like this is critical to that success. And so, Jay, I think that getting an interior designer involved is probably almost as important, if not more so, than getting the architect involved early.
You know, we're lucky enough that, generally speaking, our clients come to us and they ask us to help form the team that's going to bring this project to fruition. So oftentimes we're asked to sort of recommend the right architect for what we know that they want and what they're trying to get to. And the same thing, I think, choosing a builder that has a great knowledge of what we're looking for in terms of a particular style, of a particular level of quality, is enormously important, and you're just trying to form the best team that you can. It's also getting the architect and the interior designer together at the inception of the project so that we can work on all those details of recessed shade pockets and making sure that the architecture is going to complement the technology and vice versa.
We had great takeaways throughout the session, guys. And if anyone wants to dig in deeper with either of you, you've got the email addresses there. So thanks again, and we'll see you at the next session.